We sincerely hope you all buy these records. God knows we need the money.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another bass lesson. In this lesson we're going to be looking at ways in which you can walk over modal tunes. These are tunes that have one or two chord changes, maybe three, and the idea is we're just using one particular chord type or one particular chord sound that we can make our walking bass lines with. Oftentimes I find that bass players have a hard time walking over chord progressions that just have one or two chord changes. On the one hand, it should be easy because you don't have many chords to think about, right? But on the other hand, it's harder because you get into the habit of changing chords each bar, and now you have the same chord that you have to think about. So in this lesson, I'd like to talk about 5 ways that you can walk over modal tunes to sound like you know what you're doing. So let me play the first example and then we'll get right into the note choices that I'm using. For our first example, we're just looking at walking a bass line using the chord tones of D minor 7. So let's go over them really quickly. We've got, of course, D is the root note, F is the 3rd, A is the 5th, and C is the minor 7. And it's a good idea to practice these chord tones in the full range that you intend to walk in. You've heard me talk about this before. I like to walk from about the open E string up to middle C. If you're feeling like you want to expand that, then that's perfectly fine. The walking line that I just played goes all the way up to a high F. So if you want to work on the chord tones up to that point, then that is a good idea to do. So going over this bass line, we start off bar 1, root note, 7, 5th, 7, and now we're going to play a D minor triad, root, 3rd, 5th, 3rd, open D in the next bar, shift up for the top octave D, 7, 5th, 3rd, root, 7, 5th. Next bar, bar 5, root, 5th, 3rd, root, shift, 5th, 7, root, and all the way up to the 3rd. Walking back down the chord, root, 7, 5th, 3rd, root, down to the low F this time, 5th, 7. Let's talk about the extended arpeggio idea. So for this example, we're just going to add the 9 on top. So to extend an arpeggio, we have the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7. We're just going to keep up with that same pattern. We're going to go 2 more notes higher and get to the E note on top. Root, 3rd, 5th, 7, and 9. that E natural note is the 9 on D minor 7. And that's all we need to know for this. And you can play these 9s in any octave. You can play in the low octave, that's of course fine, and the high octave sounds good as well. So, starting with the first bar, root, 3rd, 5th, 7, and then we're going to play the 5th here this time, 7, 9, 7, and then we're going to walk down the arpeggio, play the 9 in this low octave down here, open E string for the 9, 9 on top. So what we did there in bar 14 was actually an F major 7 arpeggio. And that's a cool little trick. So a D minor 9 arpeggio is actually the same as an F major 7 arpeggio without the D on the bottom. F, A, C, and E. And that's what we're doing down here in bar 14. Just an F major 7 arpeggio. D, E, D, A. And that is the extended arpeggio exercise. Perhaps the simplest way to walk over modal tunes is just by using a mode, right? Just by using a scale. And so we're going to be using the D Dorian mode or D Dorian scale for this walking bass line. As I said earlier, this is just where you think about the key of C major, but start from D and end on D. So those notes, just to run those quickly, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, right? It's the key of C major, starting and ending on D. That's all it is. So let's walk through this next bass line. Walking up D Dorian, walking back down, and I'm going to keep on walking down. Okay, line 2. Just using notes of the arpeggio here, and now walking down the scale, jumping past A because I want to play it on beat 1, walking down the scale, jump down to the A string and walk back up the scale. So really not that much to talk about, just using notes of the key of D Dorian or the key of C major, and notice how I'm really trying to target certain notes on beat 1. So if we go back again to the first bar, I start on D, bar 2, I'm playing the 5th, right? And walking back down, the start of the next bar, I'm playing the root note. I'm playing the G natural note on beat 1 in the 4th bar. That's not really a note that's in D minor 7, but it's a modal tune, so you can definitely play different notes on beat 1 and it is totally fine. When you're playing a tune that has more chord changes, so the chords change 1 chord per bar or something like that, or 2 chords per bar, you really need to be a bit more careful and make sure that you're playing a chord tone when the chord changes. For modal tunes, it's not quite as important. You can definitely target different notes or even play non-chord tone notes on the downbeat, and it really just sounds fine. So starting from bar 1, we've got root note, 5th, 7, and a passing note or a chromatic note, C sharp, leading back into D. Walking up D Dorian, same type of idea, C sharp leading to D. B flat leading to A, E flat leading to D, B flat leading to A, C sharp leading to D, E flat, D. Notice in this walking bass line I actually put all of the passing notes on beat 4. This is a great place to put them at first. You can put them in other places as well, even on beats 1 and 3 is fine. I think they do sound nicest when they're on beats 2 and 4. So that's a great place to use them. Okay, looking at chord substitutions now. This is probably the walking bass idea that I use the most for modal tunes. It helps you to come up with more ideas rather than just try to think of ideas just based on one chord sound. We can actually incorporate our own chord sounds, which aren't actually written into the chart. So going from bar 1, this is all just basic D minor. And now I'm playing E natural on beat 1, so I'm saying that I want to actually play a 2-5-1. 2-5, C sharp is the 3rd of A7, and 1. So going back to bar 2 again, I'm just playing a 2-5-1 in D minor, even though it's not written. This is sort of like a 1-6-2-5 now. Putting in that B flat, which is the flat 5th of this chord. And now I'm just going to play basic D minor sound. C sharp on the 3rd beat, this is sort of an A7 sound. I'm playing C sharp and E natural. And on A7 that would be the 3rd and the 5th. And now I'm going straight back to just a regular D minor 7 sort of sound. And now I'm implying an A7 sound to come back to D minor again. Now to wrap up this video, I'd just like to play one full walking bass line to the most popular modal tune, which is So What by Miles Davis. If you really like this lesson, I encourage you to check me out on Patreon. You can download all of the walking bass ideas that we talked about in this lesson, as well as extra content from previous lessons. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and until the next one, take care.